Okay, guys, so I just started recording our call so that other people can listen in later on if they choose to do so. So today we're going through buyer consultations, right? And we're going to talk about the beginning steps of a buyer consultation, because I think that's important for some of the people on this call who have never worked with buyers before. They have no clue where to start. So it's the starting point, and then leading into how do we retain buyers, right? So how do we retain their relationship in order for us to close them? And before I dive deep in, I like going back to this resource folder because there's, sorry, one second. I want to share my screen with you. I want to share this screen with you because I take a lot of my resources from here, our resource folder that everybody has access to. So in our resource folder, there are a few things. There's buyer scripts in here, right? From Ignite, and how we can ask buyers the right questions to qualify them. So this is coming from Mike Ferry, but it's basically a list of questions you can ask a buyer when you're on the call with them, right? And then we also have in here scripts, other scripts you can use. We have, I love this tool here. I actually use this tool as well. This is our buyer's guide. It's a sample of a buyer guide that you can literally use for yourself. Like, you don't have to create a new buyer's guide. If you want to re-customize it with your logo, your name, your information to make it look more presentable, you can go ahead and do that, right? So it's basically a handbook. Marianne, this answers your question about what can you give to your newcomers, right? You're working with a lot of newcomer first-time buyers. This is a great resource that you can start using to explain yourself, because a lot of people get so stumped on, well, I haven't really worked with a lot of buyers before. Well, your company has, right? So us as a company, we have. And so you're a representation of the brand, right? So even though you haven't done 100 deals, our brand is reliable. We're reliable because we're supporting you to get that transaction done, right? So don't get so focused on, well, I have only worked with one buyer, or I've only done a few leases. That's not what this is about. This guide, this book is a perfect tool to use in your first year of real estate, because you're not going to have all these testimonials perhaps on the deals and the work that you've done, but you can leverage our company and the fact that we're top of mind in terms of our level of technology and the support that we have and the level of professionalism that we bring in this fast-paced market. So here it just goes on to talk about Keller Williams, right? So this is the reason I'm bringing this up to you is because I want you to know that there are resources here in your resource folder already, right? For those of you who asked earlier, what can we start using right now? It's all here. Checklists, budgets, guides, they're all in your resource folder, okay? Now, we're gonna take a step back. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for 1 second, and I will go back to that. I'm gonna use that on and off, okay? So let's start kind of practicing this as a group. Where do we get our leads from? Share with me where some of your buyer leads are coming from. Anyone here on the call? Where are some of your leads
coming from? First?
Where is that, Trudy? Sorry?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I used to get my leads from Zolo because they give leads. Mm-hmm. And I would also go to Kijiji to buy to seek buyers as well. Mm-hmm. Last week, I went door knocking with Lisa. Nathan set me up on that. So figuring out how to get my own lead, because in the past, I just used to rely on Zola, right? Because I was new to the business. Most of like my friends, honestly, like most of my friends already buy a house, right? And even if they were thinking of selling, if they sell, they can't really buy anything where they want to buy it, right? So they're like, I'm not seeking to buy anymore, right? They kind of like, oh no, I'm not going to buy now. I'm not going to sell now. So, because I can't buy anything that I want to buy, it's too expensive, even if I sell. So I'm kind of on the path now where try to be self-sufficient and getting my own leads. So yeah, it's a new journey for me.
Yeah, so that's great. So when you're seeing leads come through, right? If they are coming through you, if they're not coming through your brokerage, you have to find them, right? So you're finding your own leads, right? And so naturally, a buyer will show of some interest to you when you're asking them if they're looking to purchase a home in the next 3 to 6 months. So Svetlana, for you, where did you get your buyer leads from? Where did you find those buyer leads that you were working with?
Referrals, cold calling. I do not do door knocking.
Okay. So you were getting them because you were seeking them.
Yes.
You have to seek them first in usually in your first year. And guys, naturally too, like buyers in your first year will come from people that you also are familiar with and know, right? So I will say that for myself, if I asked a family or friend, maybe it wasn't for them, but for somebody else that they know, Miriam, it's probably coming from your place of work, people that you know that want representation in this type of crazy market, right? They want someone that they can trust to represent them to their probably first home purchase in Canada. That's a huge market that you can tap into in your line of work. Bella, for yourself, I know that sometimes you've worked with investors in the past, right?
Well, I do have a potential buyers, but they're coming from pretty much my sphere.
Yeah. So as you guys can see, the first piece of our consultation is to determine what is the buyer's motivation, okay? Because Svetlana's buyer's motivation is likely very different than Miriam's, who's different than mine if I'm working with an investor, who's different than Bella's if it's their second purchase, or Trudy's who's receiving them from Kijiji. Every lead that we just talked about has a different motivation, right? We know that. The first thing you want to do, guys, is set the appointment. I'm not talking about, you don't have to make it so elaborate that you're meeting them in person. A phone call is an appointment, right? So we set an appointment. Step number 1 is set the appointment. Once you've set the appointment, you can get on a phone call with them that's convenient to them. So I always ask them, is it better for you to meet in person or by phone? I've also done Zoom calls as well for buyer consultations, which work really well if you have more than one person that's involved in the process. So say, for example, guys, you have a family, but they live in 2 different homes. And the parents are, for example, supporting the children's purchase. They all want to meet together, but it's hard for you to meet them all together. How do we meet them all together? Prepare a call like this, a Zoom call. This works just as fine. The goal of your call is to get out of them, what's their price point? Where are they looking to buy? Have they been pre-approved for a mortgage? Who's supporting their purchase? And are their funds accessible? Right? Because in order for us to help them, a wish list is different than wants and needs is different than reality. Okay. So we're basically taking all those 3 things and like creating a plan. That's our goal. That's the buyer consultation, guys, is preparing a plan moving forward and setting expectations together with their motivation. Okay. So their wants and needs, you're going to have to be super realistic from the beginning. You don't want to be going on 5 appointments with them, losing them along the way because you've promised them things that aren't going to happen, because that's when they start falling off. You told them that they could buy a house for $900,000 and they can't. So what happens? They lose trust and they start looking at another realtor for advice, or they start looking at another method of purchasing a home. At the end of the day, guys, they want to buy a house, right? So who's going to get them the result that they want, and who's going to keep them accountable and disciplined throughout the process? Think of it like personal training. Okay. If you have a coach that's showing up at your house, keeping you accountable, you're seeing the weight loss, you're seeing the numbers go down, you know what I mean? This person's pushing you, they're not letting you off the hook, they're setting standards for you. You want to work with them because you're getting the result. The second that person stops showing up for you, tells you that you're going to lose 100 pounds in your first month, isn't setting realistic expectations for you, you're going to be looking on Instagram or online for somebody else, or you're going to ask your friends who they know. So I look at it the same way as a buyer's agent, right? My goal is to keep them at their target. And if the target has to change, the buyer consultation doesn't stop at just the phone call. That buyer consultation changes every single week when you're doing your weekly check-ins, okay? So you've set the call. Now you're on a phone call with them. You're either meeting them like this in person or you're on the phone with them. First thing you're going to do is you're going to introduce who you are. Hi, my name is XYZ, if they don't know you. Where are you calling them from? Start to build that rapport, right? Trudy and I jumped on a phone call today. The first thing I asked her was a little bit about herself. And then I quickly explain to her a little bit about me to warm up the conversation. Because nobody wants to just jump into business. They want to have a bit of conversation. They want to know who you are and what are you going to do for them? What is your value? Miriam's value in our call today, guys, is different than, say, Bella's. Miriam's niche target market that she's working with is specific to newcomers. So her value has to make them feel safe. They need to know that they're going to get the financing. They need to know that they're going to be handheld through this process, right? So cater to your group. Create value from your heart center. Ask yourself, what can I do differently than another agent? Express your value proposition to them right from the beginning. Why are you on this call with them? And what is the expectation when they leave this call with you? It's clarity and preparing next steps. Okay, so set that out from the beginning. Then you can go into the process of asking them questions. We have all of these questions, guys. We don't even need to create them. We have them all in our buyer's guides here. If you're like, what kind of questions do I ask? They're all in here. Okay, so there's pre-qualifying questions in your actual resource folder. Okay, so you can ask them all of these questions. So what's ahead? What features are they looking for in a home? What's important to them? But just off the top of your mind, guys, like we don't even have to go through this guide completely, but there are questions in here. What type of questions do you guys get? Or what type of questions do you ask your first-time home buyers? Let's start just like asking one another. Bella, you can start first. What type of questions do you ask on your buyer consultation?
I would ask if they are already pre-approved for the mortgage and what's the amount of the mortgage.
Perfect. Have you asked them the type of home that they're looking for first before that?
No, because I was actually following one of the pre-qualifying questions sample, which is in a resource folder. It was perfect, but it's always my question that at what point I have to ask about the property type and the features of the property that they're looking for, because it was not on that list. So yeah, that was my main struggle, because I thought for the first phone call, we just ask some basic questions, and then we schedule another appointment to ask more about the property.
Okay, so everybody runs their business a little bit different. We know that, right, guys? So I'm going to just stop sharing because I don't think that this is useful for us right now. I think we need to really get down to like the actual appointment itself. I don't forget that for a second. On your buyer's consultation call, we want to know from them, what are they looking for, right? We want to know that they're heard. What are you looking for? Are you an investor? My call last night, guys, I didn't want to ask them first what their price point was, because that really doesn't matter at the end of the day when I tell them what they can afford. Do you know what I mean? Your price point can be 500,000 and I need to get you to 750. So the first question is, what are you willing to live in this type of market? What are you willing to do without? What are some sacrifices you're willing to make? Are you okay with a starter home if you're working with a new couple? Are you okay starting in a condo, right? Keep in mind that there are maintenance fees there, so we need to get that maintenance fee pre-qualified. Are you starting in a townhome? Are you okay with, if I show you a semi-detached house, right? And say it's out of your price point, are you okay to start in a townhome? Asking them what they're willing to negotiate with. What are they willing to live without? Okay. In a slower paced market where there's less buyers, guys, you can start asking them what they want. In a market that we are in today, we have to be the experts of what's in front of us and be able to determine from our buyer how flexible they are. Does that make sense? We're kind of looking at it in a different lens, right? Because again, we want to be able to deliver what we're saying we're going to deliver. So if we're promising them a 3-car garage for $1 million and we're not telling them that they have to move to Thunder Bay, that's a problem, right? So what type of house are they willing to live in? Not necessarily what they want, but what are you willing to live in? If they're upgrading their house, what does that upgrade look like? If they already have a home, what does that upgrade look like to them? And then breaking down their wish list into realities of like wants versus needs. So for example, if I wanted to move from my home now that I live in Innisfil, and I was working with an agent, I would say to the agent, I'm looking for a house probably with some more land, right? I need to have 4 bedrooms because there's 4 family members in our family. Okay, perfect. Now you're an agent with me. You're scripting with me, Bella. Okay, perfect. Do all of those bedrooms need to be on the same floor?
Oh, I'm the buyer.
Right. So let's say I'm your buyer, you're the agent.
Okay.
And I'm saying to you, right? So this is how our conversation is starting. I need to find a home, right? I need it to be a 4-bedroom home. I want it to have a little bit more land, right? I'm okay living in Simcoe County. Your question would then be to me, perhaps, do all of the bedrooms need to be on the same floor? Because could we not find you a 3+1? Are you willing to do with a single car garage? Because you can find houses that aren't necessarily 2-car garage or single car garages with a little bit more land, right? Does it have to be fully renovated? Or are you willing to improve and do a bit of the work yourself to save some money? Are you willing to look just outside of Aurelia? Right? Like, these are questions that you need to ask me now as a buyer to give me clarity, because sometimes, guys, a buyer has no clue. They think they know what they want, but your job on this call is to get like real with them, because you should know your numbers before this call as well, right? Like, you kind of know what areas you're working in, and you're looking at your market updates every day on Treb, right? So having a pulse on the market is key in your buyer consultations as well. So when you're having that call with them, ask them the right questions too. So I love that you said, Bella, to ask them their price point. Do I think it's important? Absolutely, I do. I think buyers don't always know what their price point is, because they're looking at listings, guys, usually on realtor.ca, which does not give them a clear description on what value of homes really are. They're just looking at list prices, right? So the next question would then, to Bella's point, be, have you been pre-qualified for mortgage? And some of them might say yes, okay? If they say yes, we need them to send us a copy of their what?
Mortgage approval?
Yeah, what does a mortgage pre-approval look like though? Like, how do we get that? What does that look like?
You get it from their financial institution or their mortgage broker.
Through email?
Yeah. You can get
Maybe
it
as an attachment with a letter.
But yeah, for the
right? Like
institution
certified, right?
down there. So
yes, so a certified letter from the bank, basically, right? So the reason I'm saying this, guys, is because this just literally happened to me last week. Okay, I'm going to share a case study with you. I have a buyer. She's a referral to me. She's looking to buy a place in Barrie. I get her information. We have a call just like this. I introduce myself. She introduces herself. I ask her who's purchasing this house, right? I let her know about the certain things about the market, what's going on. I start asking her, what style of property are you looking for? She says to me that this is an investment purchase. Perfect. Now I know I'm working with an investor. It's not necessarily a house that she needs to get comfortable in. It's getting her an investment property that's going to create value for her and equity down the road. Okay. She says to me, I've been pre-approved for $900,000. Perfect in my mind. Great budget, right? $900,000 is fantastic. I could totally find her an investment property for $900,000. I go on to ask her if she's been pre-approved professionally by a mortgage company or her financial institution. She said yes. I said, perfect. After this call, if you could please forward me a copy via email of your pre-approval. She sends me an email back from her mortgage company, which was with CIBC. And it was an estimate that was typed out from a financial advisor at the bank as to what it would roughly look like if she had submitted all of her documents and if they all passed. Okay. That's very risky, guys. That's not a pre-approval. What we had to do was we had to backtrack, and I called her and I said, listen, I know this is a challenging time for you to understand what our next steps are, but that's why I am here as your realtor and as your broker. I'm here to raise a red flag when I need to to protect you and your time and mine, and so that we can get what we need to move on to step 2. We're still in step 1, which is the pre-approval process. Guys, I do not show houses to people unless I know what money they're working with. You want to know why? I don't go to the mall without having a wallet or a card, knowing how much money I have to spend. Okay. I don't go shopping for something unless I know what I'm working with, period. I don't. And I don't advise anybody to do that. That, for me, that's unprofessional. If I don't know what kind of money you're working with, I can't promise you anything. And you want to deliver value to your families, right? You want to deliver value. If what you say, you want to be able to deliver and do, right? So I said to this girl, I said, listen, yes, I totally understand that would make you feel like you have a pre-approval. Unfortunately, it's not actually a pre-approval. It's just preliminary. Let's get you a proper pre-approval. Guys, we did a pre-approval. Her financing came in at a purchase price of $600,000.
Oh my God.
You know what we're looking at now? 1-bedroom condos, okay? So I went from showing her side splits, that in my mind, I was going to start showing her side splits. In my mind, I'm going to start sending you listings. Think of how fast down the rabbit hole that would have went.
So 600 was not even the mortgage, was the purchase price. Wow. Okay.
And this isn't going to be the first time, that this happens, right? This is not going to be the first time this happens. This is why I'm saying it's not about asking them, what can you afford? It's asking them the question of, have you been pre-approved? I need to see it because, and guys, if they ask you why you need to see it, you could say to them, because I need it for my back office. You are your back office, right? I need it for my back office and I need it for my records. Just as the same way that you would need their identification, you guys are all paying RICO insurance to represent your clients, right? And you are running a business for yourself. So that's the prerequisite in order for them to be working with you. You need to know what they're working with in order for you to work with them. Can't help somebody that isn't ready to be helped. Okay. So that is like from the beginning, if you guys are going to do anything, is the pre-qualification. Miriam, earlier on in your conversation, you said to me, do I need to help them with financing? Absolutely. 1000% you do. You don't need to do the financing for them, but you need to connect them with somebody who has financing for them. And in the beginning stages of your career, you're going to want to start really getting in front of mortgage brokers and people in the bank, meet people who can help your clients, because that is a huge value proposition, guys, of people working with you, is if you can connect them with the person who can get them the money to buy the house. Right? Svetlana, go ahead, hun.
I think it's so professional what you did, asking for this document from the bank, because I think I did this mistake once.
I've done it. I've done it so many times.
When my client said, yes, it's for sure, it's that amount, it's promised. I don't know why she doesn't want to give me this paper, but it's promised, it's for sure. But when at the end of a couple of weeks, finally he is receiving, and it's same scenario, 1/3 less when he expected, 1/3. First of all, he's extremely mad at you. What you didn't ask, you didn't push.
But how happy. So you know what's crazy, Svetlana, is how proud that family is that you didn't make them buy a house preliminary for $900,000 and they would have lost their deposit, right? So share that with them. They might not know that, but share that, right?
Another angle of this scenario, they are now they can't find what they're looking for. They can't, and they're upset with you. What they lost time, and they will be probably looking for another agent.
Another agent. That's what's going to happen.
Another agent would get everything ready. So they know already area because you shopped with them where they can buy. Another agent would have a ready mortgage pre-approval.
Svetlana, you're so right. And that is exactly, so here's the thing, guys. This is the same family, okay? Ask me if I've showed them a property yet. And they're not going out with me until I get everything organized. They're not going out with me. That is my standard, because I need to deliver what they can afford, period. Guys, I've been talking to them for 3 weeks. I have not yet showed them a house. Not until they can get it organized. Today, finally, I've booked 3 condos for them to see tomorrow night, because I know that I can get them those condos, right? So what happens? I've saved them time from getting stressed on giving up in this type of market, because now I haven't showed them 100 houses that they can't afford. their lender is so happy. I've now communicated with their lender, right? And they said to me, thank goodness that you asked us for it, because we're trusting you and our mortgage broker that like we're approved, right? So Trudy had a question. Go ahead, hon.
It's the same thing with leases as well.
Yes, it
when
is.
I just started up, I used to just go on showings, right? And at the end of the day, they don't have the documents, they don't have the credit score, the income doesn't match up. And I'm like, I need to stop this, right? And people usually tell me, you need to stop this. So what I would do is that if I get a contact about a lease, I would say, okay, I would tell them, these are the information that the landlord needs. And it's true, good credit score, good jobs. And I would pre-qualify them. And nowadays I don't go on a showing if I can't get your credit report, if I can't get your 3-page stubs, if I can't get your job letter.
The same thing for buyers.
If I can get your photo ID, I'm not going, because guess what? I have to pre-qualify you. Yes. And I don't just take it and look at it. You tell me what houses you're interested in. And when I have your documents, I'm gonna call that listing agent and I'm gonna say, I have a client who is interested. These are their documents. And if she asks to see it, I will send it over. And I said, tell me, because I don't want to waste my time. Tell me if they will be even considered. If they're considered, I take you on that showing. If not, I'm sorry, because guess what? I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting your time.
100%
Trudy. Laid out to them, right?
Exactly. It's so true.
Yeah,
you're laying it out.
On Monday, I've been working with her since last year, but she was working part-time. And it's the same listing agent that I sent in her documents to, because I think that listing agent kind of dominates that building. It's a new building. I think she dominates every floor. She has like 10 or lock boxes, right? And we sent her documents to her and she didn't get it. She said, okay, I'm gonna be full-time soon, so I'm just gonna lay off for now. When I'm full-time, then I will get back to you. Last week, 2 weeks ago, she get back to me and she said, I'm ready to go now. She sent me, I already have the documents. She sent me an updated credit report. I sent off the documents to the listing agent and asked her if the landlord was okay. And she said, yes, they're okay. We saw the condo and she liked it. I put it in and it's done. It's so easy for me and it's so easy for her as well, right? Less time.
Exactly.
Less time waste showing you 10 different
exactly.
You can't even get 10 of them.
Yeah, so that's just basically it, guys. So like, I know that Svetlana earlier in our call, you had also asked about retention, right? And so the value of keeping your clients and how you keep them. And that's through, like you said, Svetlana earlier, is checking in on them every week, even after the buyer consultation is over, right? So basically the goal is to be the bus driver, right? Not letting your buyer lead you. You are leading them. So take that in the mind of you are leading them and you're giving them the next steps and you're telling them what you need from them, right? People want to know that they're being led. That's our goal, is to lead them through the process. Did you have a question, Sveta?
I think it's not weekly. I daily was in contact with them every day, every night around 7 p.m. we were on call. And I start to feel what they're losing interest, because we already saw the areas we're looking, but they clearly, when they ask me for how much it's sold, and I tell them it's sold 200 over asking, they clearly start to understand they have to change city, and then they change the city and it's not the board when I'm trading. So unfortunately, I don't think I did anything wrong. In fact, I believe I still help them.
Yeah, of course, to discover.
GTA is not for them. And but they told me you would sell us our primary house. Anyway, we're still on touch, but I just
I know what you mean. So that's kind of why, like, guys, for the buyer consultation process, like Svetlana is saying, there's also touch points that take place after. And I think the key in the conversion is having the every other day call with them, especially in a market that's this busy. And Bella, earlier to your conversation about when you're meeting a buyer over the phone, how do we ensure that those buyers are going to commit to us? And the commitment piece comes with how much value you're bringing them and keeping them in line, right? So although we're sending them listings, guys, sometimes just sending listings in this type of market is, well, I know it's not going to cut it. It's asking their feedback on the listing you've sent them. So you're going to have to take 2 extra steps forward. Okay. So Bella, for example, if today you've sent your buyer a listing, by the end of the day, you're calling them and asking them, what did you think of that one I sent you? So, and if they say to you, well, I want to know what it sells for, tell them what it sold for. And then that might mean if that's too expensive for them, show them areas that are selling for their price point. So like your area search, your prospect search might change 2-3 times. Right? So keeping up with them, and like with your buyer purchase agreement, right? With your buyer rep agreement that you're going to be filling out with them. Not every agent fills it out, guys, on their first tour. We know that, right? So I do not fill out a buyer consultation agreement form on my first visit with my customer, because I want to know, with my client, because I want to know that I actually can work with them too. So when I do commit to them, and when they're committing to me, is when I'm submitting an offer for them, right? If it's the second time I'm showing them houses, for example, I'm asking them to commit to me on an agreement, because I'm going to continue pouring value into them, and I'm keeping them in line, almost like a coach. So I'm their advisor moving forward. And I think that relationship is explaining that relationship with them, Bella, and explaining to them how much time goes into doing what you're doing for them. Show them that you're looking for properties day in and day out for them. Explain to them that you're doing your research, that you're calling agents, you're trying to find exclusive listings. And that comes with a commitment, right? And so they do have to commit to you, because I know you asked about how do we get that form signed.
And can I add something else? Also very important to know who is decision maker in the family.
Yes.
Because very often I was massaging wrong person. And another person even like get upset, because even it's a girl, but she is she's making her parents, right? She's decision maker, even parents are paying, but she's decision maker. But I was always in contact with the parents. She got upset, I believe. And she started to kind of look for any access. Like, it's important to know.
Checking in with everybody, to be honest. Bella, go ahead, hun.
Actually, I want to know that what's the steps, like if you want to summarize that from the first time that we get the referral till we go for the showing. This is exactly where I'm confused.
Okay, so you're getting the referral, it's coming in, right? You're booking an appointment to speak to them over the phone. That is your pre-qualifying period. You're pre-qualifying them. You're asking them the questions of what type of home are you looking for, right? Have you been pre-approved for a mortgage? Who is purchasing this property? Do you have the funds prepared? Deposit prepared. Key, guys. They don't have a deposit, they can't make an offer, right? They don't have a deposit, they can't make an offer. We need to know that it's accessible, because if we find something, and explain that, if we find something tomorrow, do you have money in an account ready to take out a deposit for it? How much is a deposit? It's usually 5% of the purchase price. Give or take, guys. We can work with the listing agent to ask if they can give it to us for a little bit less. But on most listings, you'll see in the comments right now, more often now, 5% deposit is preferred with a check on your offer. And I lost on a buy, guys, last week. I lost on one because my offer didn't have it attached and the other offer did. I lost it by $2,000 because they had an attached deposit check on their offer. Okay. So asking your buyers during your buyer consultation, do they have the money ready for a deposit of 5% on the purchase?
Sometimes people say, I have cash.
Yeah. What does that mean? So then, Bella, basically it goes into 2 tiers after that. After you have this call, it goes into 2 tiers. Are they ready to shop, or do you need to take them down the ladder? Right? Can they go shopping? They have sent you their pre-approval. They've already been through this before. They know what they need. They have the money. The funds are ready. You can start preparing them on a drip campaign, prospect searching them. Okay. I would send them listings that same day. I wouldn't wait till the next day. I'd be sending them listings after that phone call through an email, and letting them know in your email that moving forward, this is the type of email they're going to start seeing from you. It's going to start having listings on it based on the criteria that you've set for them. If they're ready to shop, because you've verified that they can actually pay for these homes, right? There's a video, guys, that talks about putting people on prospect searches that I'm not going to go through because we already have that filmed. If you look back at our gallery, our YouTube gallery on our PC group. If they're not ready to shop, it's going to take you longer. You're going to take them down the steps of either you're going to connect them to a mortgage broker through email, maybe more than one, maybe you connect them to 2 to 3, Miriam. You might have to, after that call, you're going to have to connect them if they don't have anybody. And now you're going to introduce yourself to the mortgage broker through email.
The second step that you said, actually, I had one client who wanted to buy. I made a presentation because she was expecting me to explain all the steps for her. So I made a presentation. I explained about there is incentive program for the first home buyers. So from government, there is a grant. I told her about that, everything detail about finance and buying a home. But at the end, she wanted me to contact the mortgage broker. She said, you know, better, could you call on my behalf? And I said, it's not my job. And so,
you can though, you can connect them. Yeah.
Not connection. She wanted me to walk through all the steps with the like mortgage broker.
So maybe she's feeling not confident in that process, right? So I've had new immigrants also reach out to me to support them. What I do is I find a mortgage broker who actually speaks the same language as them. And I find that really helps because they are the experts in that piece. But I will connect them personally with somebody who speaks of their language or somebody that I know will feel.
I had a problem because she was Chinese and she didn't want to go with her language, like a mortgage broker that speaks the same language. So
yeah, sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right fit. Trudy, yeah.
What can also help in that situation is that if you have a mortgage advisor that you're in touch with, just give them a call first, explain the situation to them, and then just tell them that the client is going to call them, right? So you kind of get the details. Go ahead, talk to the mortgage guy. So when that client calls, he knows exactly what they're talking about, right? So it's easier for them that way.
Yeah, it sounds like Miriam's client though felt a lot of fear of just even having those conversations. So Miriam, honestly speaking, like you're right, like that isn't, you can't pre-qualify them. You can connect them to the perfect resource for them. Maybe it's not the first one. I did that with a client too. Their first connection really didn't work for them, but that's why I'm checking in with them every 2 days. Did you call them? What happened? How was it? Guys, I'm very involved with my buyers. Not everybody does this, but I need to know after every step that there's a follow-up. Did you do what they asked you to do? Did you get them what they needed? Perfect. Okay, now we can go to the next steps. Bella, your next step after that tier, right? So now you've connected them to a broker. You're going to create the connection with the broker by calling them to let them know that you're the realtor representing them and make sure that they know who you are too, right? In case you guys need to exchange information. And then you're setting them up, after you're setting them up on a prospect search, once they have their approval in place, right? You're going to touch base with them after they've received your first set of emails to see if that's what they're looking for. Right.
So basically, we don't need to set another appointment to go through the details of the property that they're looking for.
You're going to want to set another appointment before you start showing them houses. What is the expectation when you start to go show a house? Right? Do you know what I mean? Because think of yourself as a buyer. So now you're pre-qualified. Now you're ready for stage 2. Stage 2 is to go out and start looking for homes now. Now you found a house that you like. What do I need to do? You're going to want to set another call with them to set the expectation of what does a showing mean? What is a showing? So if I like the house after my showing, what does that look like? Right? What does an offer mean? There are stages within the buyer consultation that you might need to do a second check-in call to explain what it means to get to the next step. So think of it as steps. Pre-qualification, getting to know one another, then it's the showing process, then it's the offer process. And through every step is a conversation.
But, I will ask all the questions about the property features during the first call or the first meeting that I'm going to have with them. So I don't need to set another appointment to ask what type of property they want, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. or any details like that?
So
in
you're
one
gonna
shot.
get, yeah, you should know all of that when you have your initial call,
Okay, great.
right?
That
You should get
was,
to know
yeah.
all of that, talk to them. Your consultation, guys, might be a full hour, right?
Okay.
I would set a full hour aside and say, we're gonna talk it all through. They might start asking you a little bit of market information too during that call to see if you know if you know a bit about the market. They might start saying, what am I up against? What are some areas that, you know, I can qualify for? That question is hard to answer. I'm going to be honest with you. If they ask you the question of what can I buy, you don't know until you have their pre-approval in place, right? You don't know, because they could tell you, well, I did a mortgage app calculator on TD Bank and they said that I can afford 500. Well, that doesn't really work. So we need to know a legitimate source, because maybe they can afford more than they think, right? So it's not necessarily that they can afford less. What if they can afford another 300,000 than they felt that they could? And now that puts them in a completely different area, right? So I would look at the buyer consultation, guys, as stages. Once you have their information, you know the type of home that they're looking for, and you feel out from them, are they willing to sacrifice one thing over another? All this stuff has to be documented somewhere. I use my database to document every single phone call, because those conversations can change, right? So you'll notice that the beginning of when you have that initial conversation to when they're actually going to look and buy, they're more open once they start seeing houses and like realizing how quick the market is. Their wishes and wants will change. So document those conversations through your database as well. And it could be simple notes, like just had a conversation with them, follow up with them next week after their appointment with the bank and see what's going on next week with them, right? So like, that's why I think it's super important, guys, to have a database that's going to actually alert you as well, to remind you when you need to follow up with that customer again or that client again. Like if you know they're going to the bank tomorrow, follow up with them the day after tomorrow, right? How did that appointment go? You got to be there for them through the whole process. We're not in the business, guys, of just selling a house. Get that out of your mind. You're not there right at the end with a buyer. Gone are the days you could think you could just show up at the house and you're going to sell it. No, it's not happening. You're going through the whole process with them. And I promise you, once you do that, Miriam, like I know for you with your job, they're going to refer you somebody else because now they trust you. Can you imagine you just helped somebody, guys, buy their first house in Canada, like Miriam's situation? Like what that could do for your business when you've established those connections at the bank, when you've established, potentially interpreters, that entire experience. Like that was the most rewarding experience for me, working with somebody that was from my country who was here for 1 year. She's been my best referral. She's told everybody about her experience because every year I know when her mortgage is up for renewal because my mortgage broker tells me. So I'm like, perfect. Like, are you ready to upgrade your house? Like, you went from owning this 1-bedroom condo to now looking at a detached house, like you're selling the experience, guys. You're not selling just the house, So don't worry about how many appointments you have to take. Maybe you have to take 5, 6, 7, right? It's letting them know that you're there. And the key, like I said earlier, is in the follow-up and watching your client. If you see them shifting, if you see them looking at pre-construction, bring them back, right? Like, why are you looking at pre-construction? Are you looking at pre-construction because you think it's cheaper? Not necessarily. And this is why, right? Maybe you're showing them a condo that is new, that is resale, so that you guys can still get paid out, right? Or you're going with builders and showing them new builds that they are cooperating. So you can still get paid working pre-construction. I think that's a misconception.
Sorry, I'm always working with my heart in any job that I'm doing. So I'm thinking about their payments too. Sometimes their income just covers the mortgage and doesn't. It's hard for me like to push them to buy a house because I know they don't have a bread on their table later on. So I don't know if I'm wrong or right.
And you know what? And that's okay. Like, right. So you might have people who just can't afford today, but it doesn't mean no. It just means no, not right now. We talk a lot about that, Miriam, in our coaching. And I think that's something that we all need to kind of remember when we're in a situation where we're looking at them thinking, okay, I know that maybe you're not ready to buy right now. Can we get you in an opportunity to lease to own? Can we look at ways of partnering you with another family? You know, like I just recently, yesterday, I have a really great client of mine that is looking to help a newcomer family that's trying to get into the market. And he's going to be working with them on a split where he funds them the down payment and they're leasing back from him for 1 year, right? So that they can buy this house. So it's about finding partnerships. And the way we do that is through communicating more, networking more, asking the bank, are there other products that they can use? Maybe it's, you know, looking at a private 1 year deal for them, right? Or they're looking at a lease for 1 year until they can get themselves on their feet. Maybe they're living, guys, with more than one family, right? So it's getting creative in this market. Like I have so many families that are buying together. You know, it's a brother and a wife, and then they're friends, and they're buying a 2-level bungalow together, and they're all going on title. So finding other solutions for them and like being that resource for when they are ready. Because you're right, they might not be ready right now, but it's not an opportunity that we shut off, because ultimately their goal is probably to become homeowners one day, right? So let's make it possible for them, and let's see what they can do and what they can do without, even if it's temporary for 1 year or 2 years, right? So we have 2 more minutes on the clock, guys. I can take one more question if anybody has another one that I didn't answer. Sounds like you guys are okay. So again, I didn't go through step. I kind of gave you guys a bigger umbrella overview, because again, your conversations are going to look different depending on who you're speaking to and the level of experience that they have buying homes. So again, it can go 2 ways. And if it does go down, which is, I want to say 80% of the time they're not pre-approved, you have to start with that step first. 80% of the time, you're not going to be working with somebody who has everything figured out. And that's why they need you, right? But anyways, guys, my doorbell just rang. That means I got to go. Somebody's here. I will see you guys soon. And I look forward to seeing you guys Wednesday on our mastermind. Okay. Take care, guys. Bye.